So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 4, beginning with text number 26. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Evam etan mahabhaga yatha vadasi dehinam ajnana prabhavavaham di sva pareti Bhida yataha evamitan mahabhaga yatha vadasi dehinam ajnana prabhavaham di swapareti bhida yatha evam. Yes, this is right. Etat, what you have said. Mahabhaga, O great personality. Yata, as vadasi, you are speaking. Dehinam, about living beings, accepting material bodies. Ajnana prabhava, by the influence of ignorance. Ahamdi, this is my interest. False ego. Swapara iti, this is another's interest. Bida, differentiation. Yatha, because of such conception of life. Translation: O great personality comes. Only by the influence of ignorance does one accept the material body and bodily ego. What you have said about this philosophy is correct. Persons in the bodily concept of life, lacking self-realization, differentiate in terms of this is mine and this belongs to another. Translation, please repeat. O great personality comes. Only by the influence of ignorance does one accept the material body and bodily ego. What you have said about this philosophy is correct. Persons in the bodily concept of life, lacking self-realization, differentiate in terms of this is mine and this belongs to another. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Everything is done automatically by the laws of nature, which work under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no question of doing anything independently, for one who has put himself in the material atmosphere is fully under the control of nature's laws. Our main business, therefore, should be to get out of the conditioned life and again become situated in spiritual existence. Only due to ignorance does a person think, I am a demigod, I am a human being, I am a dog, I am a cat, or when the ignorance is still further advanced, I am God. Unless one is fully self-realized, one's life of ignorance will continue. Evametan mahabhaga yata vadasi dehinam ajnana prabhavahandi swapareti bhidayata. O great personality comes. Only by the influence of ignorance does one accept the material body and bodily ego. What you have said about this philosophy is correct. Persons in the bodily concept of life, lacking self-realization, differentiate in terms of this is mine and this belongs to another. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manubhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Didati Svapadandiyam Aradhanastranandandai Ridam Yache Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Padambujo Dulisyam Janma Janmani Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpatrubhyascha Kripasindhubhevata Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, with my eyes closed shut, but my spiritual master has opened my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Therefore I offer my humble obeisances at his lotus feet. So just see how Vasudeva, I assume by cultural conditioning, since Kansa is the king, he's calling Mahabhaga, oh great one. So sometimes even great devotees have to flatter materialistic persons. He's calling oh great personality, Kansa. Prabhupada points this out many times, that sometimes we have to flatter like that. And he says, what you have spoken about the philosophy of the living entity, Dehinam. We know from Bhagavad-Gita, very nice verses there, Dehinosmin yata dehe, komaram jovanam jara, tatra dehantara praptir, dhiras tatra nabhuyate. So Deha means body. And Dehi means who owns the body, who lives in the body. Dehi, he's inside the body. Dehinam, one who is embodied living entity. Here's talking about the embodied living entities. They're in ignorance. Prabhupada always called them conditioned souls. Conditioned souls means, just like in the summertime, the air is naturally very hot. So everybody nowadays, we buy an air conditioner. We condition the air. Its natural position is hot, but we condition it to become cold. We call it air conditioner. So similarly, the living entity, his natural position is in the spiritual world. But as soon as we desire to enjoy this material world, then we're put inside this body, and we're conditioned to try to enjoy sense gratification. Therefore we're conditioned. So a natural condition is to serve Krishna. That we're hearing every day, that we have to give up this false lordship over the material world and surrender to Krishna. So that is a natural position, to surrender to Krishna. But now we're conditioned to sense gratification. Just like everybody always asks the question about predestination. Yes, as soon as you take a material body, you're predestined to enjoy sense gratification. And as soon as you surrender to Krishna, then you're predestined to serve Krishna. That much independence a living entity has. So we're Dehinam, the conditioned soul, the embodied soul. Our natural position is without this body. But now, due to our desire to lord it over the resources of material nature, we're stuck inside this material body. And it's very interesting. Generally, we just think of false ego as being I and mine. Here it's very described in a different way. That those lacking self-realization differentiate in terms of this is mine and this belongs to another. Usually we hear I and mine. This is very interesting in this verse. This is mine and this belongs to another. Actually, the real position is, we read in Bhagavad-Gita, Sarvalokam Maheshwaram. Krishna is the proprietor of everything. So the whole idea, this is false ego, the whole idea that this is mine, that is yours. Just like we were telling last time we gave class. One villager, he was telling that I asked him if the land is yours. He said, name is there. He said, otherwise the land was there before I came, it'll be there after I leave. Now my name is there, that's all. So we were marveling how even villagers can understand this philosophy. And big philosophers, just like Prabhupada was always criticizing. He went to see Professor Kotovsky in Moscow. And he said, Swamiji, when this body is finished, everything is finished. Big professor, he has no idea of the soul. And here in the land of Bharatvarsh, even villager can understand. Even Kamsa, who's a demon, he's able to understand these things. Therefore, Prabhupada, the first verse is, everything is done automatically by the laws of nature, which work under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like we were discussing in that verse last time. Prakriti kriyamana nigunai karma bhagasa. That material nature is, we're thinking that we're doing, but everything is going on by material nature. And material nature, we know, maya dakshena prakriti. Maya, by my, adjaksh. Just like in Hindi, we call temple president, we call it mandir adjaksh. So my adjaksh, under my temple presidentship, this material nature is going on. Krishna is the material, he is the temple president, he is the adjaksh. Maya dakshena prakriti. Everything is running on by Krishna's energy. By Krishna, by the laws of nature. Nobody can say that I'm free. Everybody's trying to become independent. But nobody can say that he's free. Nobody wants to grow old. Now we're growing old. We used to preach this all the time, that birth, death, disease, and old age. And we used to very enthusiastically preach it. You're going to grow old. And now we're growing old. It's no fun. It was fun to preach it all these years. And now we're there, and all the aches and pains and groans and problems are coming. We never thought it would happen to us, but it's happening. Prabhupada didn't lie. He said, don't think this will happen to you. It will happen to you also. And now it's happening. And every week we're reading another Gabadhar has left this world. So it's, nobody's desiring to grow old. Nobody desires to die. But everybody is growing old and dying. Before this, Jai Sisi Gornitai Sisi Krishna Balgal Sisi Radha Shyam Sundar. Before this IT revolution and social media and all these things, the highest paid executives in the world were cosmetic industry executives. Because we don't want to grow old. We want to, as soon as we see, or we look in the mirror, we see little gray hairs coming, oh no. Now it's all become silver.
I don't see any hair.
Some of us are losing completely. Some of us are completely silver. I remember one time, all the wives of the people who worked in the German embassy came to Vrindavan. So somebody told them to go to ISKCON. They will speak English and they'll be able to guide you properly. So the Mahamani called me to please take them around. And I forgot what the point was. Yeah, so I was taking them around, and then I was realizing that they were about the same age as me. And I was getting so many gray hairs, because that was after I was temple president. Temple president would give you lots of gray hairs. And they said, "Oh, Baba, we dye our hair." "Oh, Baba, we dye our hair." And it was very interesting because we took them to I figured what they would appreciate was like Kusum Sarovar. So we went to Kusum Sarovar. They pulled out all these big German cameras, ooh, ah. And we went to the Janmastan. And if you've ever been to the Janmastan, as soon as you walk in, the first altar is Jagannath. Now generally for Westerners, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra are a little bit difficult to understand. So I tried to run past and just go to the main altar of Radhakeshav. And all the ladies said, "Oh, isn't this the god from Orissa?" Even they knew about Jagannath. So the point is that nobody wants to grow old. We're putting dye, we're putting, caking so much makeup on to cover up all those wrinkles. But who can stop it? It cannot be stopped. We can only hide it. Nobody wants to die, but still every day somebody is dying. So we're not independent. We're under the laws of material nature. And under that conditioning, as I said, this is interesting. We think this is mine, this is yours. Usually we get I and mine. But everything is the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or actually the whole philosophy of Bhagavad-Gita, the real renunciation means to see that everything belongs to Krishna and use it in Krishna's service. Just like we're using this microphone, but we're not singing cinema songs. We're trying to repeat whatever we heard from Prabhupada, we're trying to repeat. That is the success of life, to repeat whatever we've heard from the spiritual master. So we're using this microphone and the speaker system and everything. Somebody may say this is material, but now the spiritual vibration of Srimad Bhagavatam class is coming. Everybody in this room is becoming purified. Even the insects and mice and whatever creatures may be here, that sound vibration is also purifying them. So this is the real perfection. Instead of seeing this is yours, this is mine, we see everything, this is Krishna's. This is the real perfection of our consciousness. This is Krishna. This is Krishna consciousness. To see everything belongs to Krishna. When I first became a devotee, that was the slogan. This is Krishna consciousness. We don't hear that anymore. But sometimes by mistake we did something right, then our senior godbrothers, senior meant they've been a devotee for 1 year more than us. They would say, this is Krishna consciousness. Because that's what Prabhupada used to say. Sometimes, not by design, but by accident we do something right, Just like in Nyaya philosophy they talk about somehow the worms, they cut, you break the bark off of the tree and there's some designs are there on the tree. Sometimes by accident it appears like ka, ga, ga, just by accident. So by accident we did something right, then Prabhupada would say, this is Krishna consciousness. So we don't hear that anymore, but that was old days. This is Krishna consciousness. So this is Krishna consciousness. To see everything, just like Sarvabhauma always tells a nice story. The one man, he went to visit his friend. And his friend was amazed. Oh, you have such a nice house. He said, yes, Sir Thakurji, this is Lord's house. This is Lord's house. And then he said, oh, you have such a nice wife. She's also Lord's. You have such obedient children. They're also Lord's. He said, Thakurji ka hai. Then he went around the house, he was pointing out everything. Then there was one small room, and there was something very shiny and beautiful, colored. That was the temple room. And the man said, what is that? He said, he's mine. Sab Thakurji ka hai, ye Thakurji ye mera hai. This is Krishna consciousness. Everything we see is Krishna's, but Krishna, he is mine. This is real consciousness. So Kansa, even demon, he knows all these things, but being completely controlled under the influence of the 6 enemies. Just like so many times every day somebody tells the whole story again and again and again of this particular pastime. And how Kamsa killed the 6 children, and they were Kam, Krodh, Moh, Lobh, Mad, and Matsarya, our 6 very dear friends that we cultivate within our heart. So this is the problem. Kans, he's completely controlled by these 6 enemies sitting within the heart. So even though he knows all these things, just like Arjuna, he asks Krishna, why is it that even by force somebody knows it's wrong, still he's doing sinful activity? And Krishna told, it is lust, it is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. Just a horrible title, huh? The all-devouring sinful enemy of this world, it is lust only. So we're all being controlled by this lust, anger, greed. He's completely under the modes of material nature. So, how to get free from these modes of material nature? He knows the philosophy, but he's completely controlled. He cannot. We're going to see. Now he's apologized that he killed all the children. He don't know what will be my destination. Please forgive me. This, that, and next we're going to read how he gets with all his demoniac associates. And what do they say? We should kill all the children, because the Durga Devi said that person who will kill you has already been born somewhere else. Let's kill all the children born in the last 10 days. Even though he knows everything, he's apologizing. Still, he's so conditioned by the modes of material nature that he can't give up his sinful activities. And why? Because now he's associated with Vasudeva and Devaki, and he's amazed how pure they are. They're even addressing him. This guy's killed their 6 children in front of their eyes, tried to kill the last one. And still they're saying Mahabhaga. They're still... This is a vision of the pure devotee, that everyone is part and parcel of Krishna, so we're all brothers. We're all friends. So even they're calling Kams Mahabhaga. This is a very high elevated state, and generally if somebody is our enemy, we're just plotting and thinking how to get even with them in so many ways. But pure devotee, he sees everyone as part and parcel of Krishna, that even that demon is bothering me, but that's also by the will of Krishna. I did something wrong, therefore I'm getting some botheration. Just like Ambarish Maharaj, not far from here, there's a forest called Madhuvan. And at Madhuvan, Ambarish Maharaj, he was actually the king. Someone told me his kingdom was in Hoshangabad in Madhya Pradesh. But he decided to come to Madhuvan and perform this Ekadasi Vrat. And then we know what happened in Durvasa Muni. He drank some water before Durvasa Muni because the Paran time was coming. And Durvasa Muni took a hair from his head. He pulled out a hair and he struck it to the ground. He created a demon to kill Ambarish Maharaj. Still Ambarish Maharaj, because he was a devotee of Krishna, he thought, yes, I am very fallen. I ate before my guest. Because this is our Vedic culture that when I first came to India, it was very strange. We would get invited to people's houses for dinner, and they would sit down, all the devotees, and feed all the devotees. They wouldn't take till we were finished. Because in the Western world, if you invite everybody sits down together and eats. But they won't take until the saintly persons are fed, till the Brahmins are fed, then nobody else will take. This was very a shock for us when we first came to India. We go to the life member's house and they would all, we were invited for dinner. We come and, what are you going to do? We'll take after you. So he ate, because this is our culture, that first we serve. Dusra ko deko khao. You give to other, then you eat. You give to others first, then you eat. Just like Prabhupada said that in the old days, of course, if you do that now, you'd never eat. You go outside, anybody want to come and eat? So Ambarish Maharaj, he broke the etiquette, although it was only drinking water. Still he was thinking, I'm offended. This great sage has come, Durvasa Rishi. I drank before him. I'm an offender. He didn't try to defend it. He was a great king. He is actually very powerful, as we'll see. Because Prabhupada said that the devotee, he didn't take any offense. He thought, I'm an offender. But Prabhupada said, someone who's going to offend a devotee, Krishna doesn't tolerate. Devotee may tolerate, but Krishna doesn't tolerate. Immediately sent his Sudarshan Chakra. Just finished off that demon. And then because he had sent the demon, then the chakra went after Durvasa Rishi. And Durvasa Rishi went all over the whole universe. Still, Ambarish Maharaj waited. He was so patient. We can't imagine somebody, we go on Sankirtan, somebody says, get a job, you're a bum. We get so angry. And this guy tried to kill him with this huge demon. And still, he's just thinking that I'm an offender, I did something wrong. This is the vision of the pure devotee. We're way far away from that. Anyway, comes, he even understands these things, but he's so conditioned he cannot give it up. So, and it's all by association. So same way, just like every day we have this Bhagavatam class, every day we get to hear, and we hear the same thing over and over again, because it needs to be banged into our head over and over, that we're not this body. We're totally convinced. I have no more doubts that I'm this body. So we have to hear it again and again and again and again and again and meditate on it. And try to understand that actually I'm not this body, I'm the servant of Krishna, I should serve Krishna. So by association of Vaishnavas, and especially by hearing, just like when Mahaprabhu met Ramananda Roy on the bank of the, Godavari. So he said, what is the goal of life and what is the means to get there, to reach it? What is the means? And our Ramananda Roy, he was very intelligent. He spoke so many, he even gave evidence from the Shastra that you have to follow Varnashram Dharma, Mavzano Eho Baya, that is external. Because we know that favorite verse, I'm not Brahman Shat, I'm not, what is that? Kiba Viprakiba Nyasi Sudrahene Kaya. I'm not any of these things. This is all external to the soul. Then he gave so many quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam. Finally, he's even quoted our very favorite verse. Sarvadharmam parijyaja mamekam saranamrita. We know this verse even in our sleep. If somebody comes to us in our sleep and says, what is that verse in the end of Bhagavad-Gita? Even in our sleep we can say, Sarvadharmam parijyaja mamekam saranamrita. Mahaprabhu said, no. This is a big shock. This is our favorite verse. And Mahaprabhu said, no. Then he said, Jnane prayasam udapasya namandeva jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadi bhartam stane sitasrutigatam tanuman manobir ye prayaso jitatitopasitais trilokyam. By this process of jnana and karma, he says, udapasya. I listened on the tape, Prabhupada says, udapasya means kick it out. Kick out this jnana and karma. Jnane prayas. Prayas means attempt. To kick out this attempt, prayas. Udapasya namanteva. Jivanti sanmukaritam. Throughout your life, sun means, sun is because of Sunday, because the next word is a M. Then it's actually the word is sat. Sat means a devotee, because he's always speaking satya, the truth. Sanmukaritam, mukh we know, mouth. We should hear, throughout our life we should hear from the pure devotees. Bhavadiya Vartam. Vartalap, this is Hindi for chat. Everybody's chatting on WhatsApp, on Messenger, Facebook, everywhere, everybody's chatting and chatting. But he says, which chats you should do? Bhavadiya Vartam, about your chats, about Krishna. We should chat about Krishna. Just like this Bhagavad-Gita, this is Krishna's own words. This Bhagavatam we're reading is about Krishna. This is what we should chat about. Bhavadiya Vartam. Stane stita. Srutikatam tanuvan manobir. Stane stita. You stay in your place. We're preaching, you're not this body. Doesn't mean, all right, now I just give up everything and go to the forest and forget about my wife and children, my job and everything. No. Stane stita. You stay in your job, whatever you're doing. Stay in your family. Stane stita. Srutikatam. But you go on hearing about Krishna. On that same tape, Prabhupada said, hearing is so powerful that even if you don't practice, you just hear from the mouths of the bona fide devotees of the Lord, you'll reach perfection. Doesn't mean, okay, I'll just go to the Bhagavatam class and all day long I'll do nonsense. No, but that's not trying to glorify, not doing, is trying to glorify the power of hearing, that is so powerful. You go on hearing, even without practicing, you'll become perfect. The more we practice, the more we practice what we hear, the faster the realization will come. And we don't have much time. In Kali Yuga, everybody, it says, written in scripture, 100 years, but nobody's living for 100 years. 45, they have their first heart attack. Then 2 or 3 years later, Ram Nam, Satya Hai. So we don't have much time. We should practice, but we go on hearing. So then Mahaprabhu said, yes, this is Ye praya sojita jito sabitaistri lokam. By this practice, by hearing from the mouths of the pure devotees, and offering namanta eva, offering respects with body, mind and words to the Lord, by this prayas, by this attempt, that person who's known as Ajita, Krishna's another name is Ajita, nobody can conquer him. You can hear on the tape, Prabhupada saying, I guess we can't say tape anymore, on the recording. You can hear on the recording, Prabhupada says, anybody can conquer God? No, no one can conquer God. But somebody hears about Krishna from the mouths of the pure devotees, then Krishna becomes conqueror. That Ajita, in the whole 3 worlds, he's Ajita, Taistri Lokyam, in the whole 3 worlds, he cannot be conquered. Jita, he becomes conquered by such a person. So this is the process. We associate with the devotees, we hear the words of Krishna in Bhagavad-Gita, we hear about Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam, and go on chanting with great enthusiasm, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We'll be able to overcome this Maya conditioning. We have our air conditioning, this is Maya conditioning. We'll overcome this Maya conditioning and go back to home, back to Godhead. So today is also the disappearance day of a very great devotee, Jayadev Goswami, who's very, very famous, especially for Gita Govind. And from that Gita Govind, this Das Avatar Stotram is part of that Gita Govind. Every day we're singing after Artik, Tavakara Kamala Bare Nakam. This is from Gita Govind of Jayadev Goswami. So he was born in the district of Birbhum, in a village called Kenu Bilva, on the bank of a river called Ajay. And from his beginning of his life, he was very attached to worshipping Radha and Krishna. In fact, he left his house, he refused to get married. His parents tried to marry him in so many ways, he refused. He built a little hut on the bank of the Ajay river, and he began to worship Radha and Krishna. This was in 1170, I think he was born. It's a long time ago, 300 years before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. But somehow he managed to get Mahaprabhu's mercy because he was imbued with this deep love for Radha and Krishna, this ecstatic love for Radha and Krishna that Mahaprabhu has benedicted us with. So somehow in that river he discovered these beautiful deities of Radha Madhav. Jayadev Goswami's deities are Radha Madhav. And he was worshipping Radha Madhav, and he had given up, he just had a small little kuti on the bank of the river. And he was writing various poems. Somehow in Orissa there was a very poor Brahmin and his wife. Somehow they couldn't get any child. One day they went to Jagannath Puri and they prayed very fervently before Lord Jagannath that we're not getting any child, please give us child. So very soon after that he gave birth to a very beautiful girl named Padmavati. They gave her the name Padmavati. Again, when she was marriageable age, they went to Lord Jagannath and they prayed, please arrange the wedding of our daughter. And Jagannath said, you go to Kenu Bilva, there's a very nice devotee, my very dear devotee, Jayadev, and you marry your daughter to him. So they went there to Jayadev's little ashram and they made their proposal, and Jaya said, no, I don't want to get married, I don't have anything to do with this. He said, but Jagannath has told, and they left the girl there and left. And he told her, you please leave. He said, I cannot leave. Jagannath has given me to you. So now I'm yours. You're my all in all. Where am I to go? Otherwise I will just die right now. She began to cry. So I will leave my body right in front of you because I have nowhere to go. Jagannath has given. So then he accepted that Jagannath has sanctioned this. So then he entered into householder life with Padmavati. And later he moved to Bengal. Well, he was already in Bengal, but later he moved close to Navadvip, and he became the court poet for Lakshman Sen, who was the king of Bengal at that time. And he served him for many, many years as a court pundit and court poet. Eventually he also got tired of courtly life, so he begged the king, please give me some nice place to stay. So he gave him a nice hut in a very jungly place, that time was a very jungly place called Champahati. Anybody been there in Navadvip Mandal Prakram? A very nice place, Champahati. Beautiful deities of Gaur Gadadhar there. And there was one nice Baba, what was his name? Nayanananda Baba. Was a godbrother of Prabhupada who was taking care of the deities. Champa is there's two that get confused. One is Champaka, that we see so many in MBT with these big leaves like this and little yellowish, sometimes whitish, yellowish flowers, with 4 little petals. Sometimes they're pink. If you go to Hawaii, so many different colors there, yellow, pink, orange, reddish. That's Champaka. And Champa, because the Champaka tree is to me it looks very prehistoric. It's got branches that are sort of swollen, they look like swollen like this. And they break very easily. In fact, you can just break off a branch, shove it in the ground, and it'll become another tree. But the champa is a regular type of tree and has a very beautiful flower. It looks like just like the tip of the branch, the leaves have turned into a flower, beautiful yellowish and so beautiful fragrance. So there used to be hati means a marketplace. So there used to be a marketplace for selling these champa flowers there. They're just the color of Sriman Mahaprabhu. So he lived in Champahati, and this is where he wrote this Geet Govind, which is all about the very intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And we know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to listen to Vidyapati, Chandidas, and Geet Govind, Krishna Karnamrit. These were among his favorite things. So there he wrote this Geet Govind in this place. And Geet Govind is very, very intimate pastimes. One day he was writing, of course there's so many legends about Jayadev, but this is one that's accepted by all. He was writing a very intimate pastime of Radha and Krishna. And he wanted to write, it came in his mind, Dehi pada palavam udaram. That Krishna bows down his head at the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. But he said, how I can write such a thing? Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How can he bow down at the lotus feet of Radharani? How can I write this? How can I write this? He became worried. He couldn't move his hand. He thought anyway, his wife was cooking. It was time for the noon offering. He said, let me go take my bath and I'll take my lunch and then maybe some inspiration will come. So he went off to take his bath in Ganga. Meanwhile, his wife saw that Jayadev came back from the Ganga and sat down at his desk and took his pen and he, whatever type of writing instruments they had in the 1100s. He wrote that verse, Dehi pada palavam udaram. Krishna bows down at the soft lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. And then he sat down and she served him lunch, and then he went away again. Meanwhile, Jayadev came back from the Ganga and he was wondering, where's lunch? And his wife said, Are, you came here and you wrote on your desk for some time, then you sat down and took lunch? Then Jayadev realized, he ran to his table, he saw the ink was still wet. And there was that verse, Dehi pada palavam udaram. That Krishna himself, disguised as Jayadev, came and finished this verse for him. That Krishna wanted this verse. And then he bowed to his wife, because you're so fortunate. Krishna appeared before you and you were able to serve him the prasadam of Radha Madhav. You're so fortunate. So this is a very, very famous incident in Jayadev Goswami's life. Later from Champahati, he came here to Vrindavan with his Radha Madhav deities. Somewhere near Keshigat, he established a temple. One king built a beautiful temple for Radha Madhav. Later the king of Jaipur has taken those deities to Jaipur. But he left them here because he built a beautiful temple, so he left them here. And then they moved to Jagannath Puri. And in Jagannath Puri, he became also the court poet for the king of Orissa. And he instituted that every day they sing this Gita Govind before Lord Jagannath. So this was instituted by Jayadev Goswami. And of course, there's different legends. Some say he left there in Orissa, some say he came back to Kenu Bilva. But anyway, somehow on this particular day, the 6th day of the dark half of the month of Posh, he entered into the eternal pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So today is the disappearance day of Srila Jayadev Goswami. So any questions or comments?
Krishnadas Kaviraj Maharaj says that I am not writing this book, that Prabhupada saying I am not writing this book, and it seems like Krishna helped Jayadev. So when they're saying that, how is it just their humility that they're expressing that they're not really the authors and writers and that Krishna's writing? How is Krishna writing?
Well, we just told we're stuck inside this body under the laws of nature, so everything is going on by Krishna's arrangement. And pure devotees are able to see that. We're in false ego, we're thinking, I'm doing this, I'm doing everything. Even inspiration, we don't know where inspiration comes from. That is also from Krishna. So it's their humility and also their realization. This is a very high realization to understand like that. We're very far away from that realization. But our Krishna's Kaviraj Sai, my eyesight is weak, my hand is trembling, still somehow this writing is going on is only by the mercy of Krishna. So that's we can only pray someday we can be able to have that vision, to see that we're just completely controlled by material nature, and now we're surrendering to Krishna, so whatever is happening is by Krishna's arrangement. That's a very deep realization. I'm very far away from that. And Jigasu has this question already.
Just like Kansa was thinking about as he went into Krishna.
Wait. See, I already have ringing in my ear, now that ringing Okay, now I can hear.
When Kamsa, he heard that Krishna is born somewhere and he ordered that everybody, all the devotees should be killed.
Yes.
Why did not Krishna have mercy on Kamsa?
Because Kamsa wasn't begging for it. Kamsa was completely controlled. That's what I had explained. He's so much controlled by Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mada, Matsarya. He's completely under the modes. Even though he can speak the philosophy, he can talk the talk, but he can't walk the walk. He speaks the philosophy very nice, but as soon as he got in association with his demoniac advisors, they said, no, let's kill all the children. Yeah, that's a good idea.
So we see Krishna is merciful, that why not he was merciful to him?
Well, he was merciful. He eventually killed Kams directly, so Kams got liberated. That's what we see, Lord Vishnu. He's got 4 hands. 2 hands with lotus flower and conch. These are for the devotees. And 2 hands with club and disc. Those are for the demons. But still, both parties get liberated. That's his mercy, that if he kills somebody directly, just like Shruti Kirti asked, what about Mr. Nair? Because Prabhupada said Krishna killed him. He said, no, that's only for big demons. If you become so demoniac like Kansa and hate Krishna with so much intensity like Kansa, then Krishna will come and kill you, and you'll get liberated. So there's no more questions, and we can all fall down at the very soft and wonderful lotus feet of that great personality who's giving us these wonderful books to hear and chant. Srila Prabhupada ki.